Hey guys, welcome back to our channel. I'm Chris,
And Ralph.
and today we're going to be talking about the first two episodes of She-Hulk, which is now on Disney Plus. Last week we didn't do a review for the first episode
Yeah.
because we just didn't get to it. But today we're going to be doing a review for both episodes in this one video. Okay, so before we get into it, overall thoughts so far, Ralph?
So for me though, so far the series is good so far.
You like it?
Yeah. And man, one thing I'm looking for to see is Daredevil.
Daredevil, which he
Yeah.
was teased in the trailers. For me, I'm loving it so far. I like the format, 30 minutes. Usually, for most Marvel shows, I would be craving like an hour because it's limited to 6 episodes, so they have more story to tell within the 6 episodes. But for She-Hulk, it's going to be in 9 episodes spread out over 9 weeks. And so far we have the first 2 episodes, and like I had mentioned, I'm loving them so far. I think Tatiana Maslany, her as She-Hulk, Jennifer Walters, I think she's killing it. And we'll get more into the cast as we go throughout the video. But
Okay.
let's start off with the first episode.
Okay.
Okay, so the first episode, I guess we'll do like a run through the episodes, which would what we normally do, and then we'll just talk about parts that we really like. Think gripes. I don't think I have any, but if I do figure out some, then I will talk about that. So, you want to start us off? How did the first episode start off?
So opens up with
Walters,
Jennifer Walters and her friend
Nikki.
Nikki as in they were preparing for the court,
Mhm.
and then she talks about how she got the Hulk formula.
Yeah. So in the beginning of the episode, she's talking straight to the camera. Yeah, she breaks fourth wall throughout the episodes, but
Yeah.
at this point, at first she wasn't breaking fourth wall, and basically she's just reciting her closing argument for a case that's going on in the court, and she's just talking about as people with power who have great responsibilities, Spider-Man, and things like that. And overall, I just like the tone that it was setting. It's more lighthearted to a certain degree, and it does talk about heavy topics throughout the show. And immediately, she starts breaking the fourth wall. She starts talking to us, the audience, directly.
Yeah, kind of like what she did to the comics.
Yeah, so she's not the first character, but there are a lot of characters. Was she the first character technically in Marvel to break the fourth wall?
Don't know.
I don't know. Maybe she was. Most likely she was. I think. But there are many characters like her, Deadpool, and that's all I can think of right now, who break the fourth wall. And so basically, she's telling us like, oh, she's She-Hulk, and this is how she became She-Hulk. And it starts off with the road trip that she's taking with her cousin, which is
Bruce Banner.
Bruce Banner. Where is? Okay, sorry about that. We wanted to see. There's a quick cut. We wanted to see where his Bruce Banner Funko Pop was, but it's somewhere underneath the rest of them, and it was like,
Yeah.
anyways, so it's Jennifer Walters driving with her cousin Bruce. They're going on a road trip. I believe they're driving throughout Mexico. At the beginning, I think they were. And basically, he's talking about how he went back to normal Bruce Banner from Hulk former Bruce Banner, how he's getting his arm to heal, and how he's trying to control not being Hulk anymore. And as they're talking, a Sicarian spaceship comes and cuts them off the road, and they drive off the road.
Yeah.
And then they crash, and then go ahead and describe what happens next.
I think when Jennifer Walters tried to get out, Bruce Banner slash Hulk blood just got into her cut.
Because she had cut herself getting out of the vehicle because the car had flipped over because of the Sicarian ship, which we'll get into that Sicarian ship later on. She cuts her arm, and then what else?
And then the blood just went to the cut.
Hulk's blood.
Hulk's
Bruce
blood.
Banner's blood, right?
Yeah.
And then immediately she
turns to She-Hulk.
And then what happens next?
Then after when she wakes up, after she woke up middle of the woods, and confused like what happened. After she found a bar.
Yeah, she came across this bar. Okay, so basically, Jennifer Walters turns into She-Hulk, and then obviously She-Hulk panics and runs off into the woods. And then we see Jennifer wake up in the middle of the woods as Jennifer, groggy and trying to figure out what the hell happened. And then she ends up at this bar. And while she's there, she's in the restroom trying to clean up. A group of women walk in to help her clean up and stuff like that. And then as Jennifer's waiting outside of the bar for Bruce to come pick her up, these guys start to like talk to her. Then after she just had pushback and she didn't want to talk to them. And then after a while, he started verbally harassing her. And then she got angry and then she turned into She-Hulk. And then boom, Bruce comes and tackles her.
Yeah.
So that's our first introduction to actual She-Hulk. I really like the conversation that her and Bruce was having.
Yeah.
Because it's comedic and you can tell it's like a loving cousin relationship they have. And they start talking about Captain America, whether he's a virgin or not. So that gets talked about throughout the episode. We'll talk about that later on in this video. And yeah, the tone so far, it was fast paced to get us introduced to her as She-Hulk. And then she wakes up in this beautiful house on the beach, a beach house, walking around it. And what does she see there while she's walking around?
Bruce Banner?
No, she's like the Iron Man helmet.
Oh, the Iron Man helmet.
She saw an Iron Man helmet. What else?
And some other stuff. Also, people noticed that the helmet from
Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as she's walking through this house on the beach, she notices there's a damaged Iron Man helmet. She also, what Ralphie mentioned, there's his Ragnarok helmet, Hulk's.
Yeah.
That he wore whenever he battled Thor in Sakaar. And she goes downstairs and she sees Hulk, Bruce Banner, Professor Smart Hulk. So in this, we finally figure out what they're calling him, which is Smart Hulk.
Yeah.
I've always, and many people always call him Professor Hulk, but in MCU he's considered Smart Hulk. And what do they talk about whenever she goes down there?
Yeah, they talk about that how to control it.
Yeah.
And stuff. And for him though, it took him like a long time.
Yeah. So basically, Bruce is trying to break the news to her that she's now a Hulk, and obviously she's not handling it well because she doesn't want to be a Hulk. She wants to be Jennifer Walters. And he's basically telling her, okay, there's no changing it. You're a Hulk now. So now I'm going to show you how to be a Hulk because I'm the only person in this whole world that knows what you're going through. Right?
Yeah.
And then he goes into more details that he was able to use her blood to fix his arm. So now his arm's fully healed. So obviously, if you remember in Endgame, he snaps the gauntlet and he brings back everybody in the world, all over the universe, the galaxies.
Yeah.
And his whole arm was damaged, but now it's no longer damaged because he was able to fix it with Jennifer's blood because they're a match, the genetics match up, the blood types match up, and all that good stuff. And now Jennifer, how is she feeling now that she knows that right now she's Jennifer?
Yeah.
She went back to Jennifer form from whenever she was She-Hulk, but now she has to deal with she has She-Hulk in her. How is she handling it?
Like for her, that like he was like, I don't want to be a superhero.
Yeah, she did not want to. She does not want to be a superhero. And then, what other things was she saying?
Like saying that she wants to be normal and continue as a lawyer.
Yeah, she wants to continue with her profession as a lawyer, her career. And throughout this episode, and what I love about this episode, what they could have easily done for most training montages that we see throughout TV and movies and stuff, is they could have put in this fast-paced track, quick cutscenes, and all the training she's done can be cut down into a minute. Excuse me. This episode is her training to be a Hulk. Her coming to terms that how to control what she said, her anger and things like that. And Bruce is telling her that it took him 15 years to try to control him being Hulk. How it was this mental duel he had with Bruce Banner and the Hulk, trying to clash the two together. It took him a decade, and to try to figure it all out. But with her, we see throughout the episode that it comes a little more easier for her because she's able to transform the Hulk and Jennifer without having any trouble. And whenever she changes to She-Hulk, she's still
the same.
She's still like Jennifer, right?
Yeah.
She talks the same, right, Mama?
Yeah. And Bruce Banner was like, "Hey, okay, so let's go scratch that part, which is rip if the guidebook out."
Yeah. So since he noticed that she's getting a hang of things pretty fast, and that she doesn't have to duel with this mentality between Jennifer and a Hulk, that she's still Jennifer whether she transforms and she's normal. You could tell he's a little jealous.
Yeah.
You could tell he's happy for her. But he's jealous because that's just the way Bruce is, especially since he had a decade trying to deal with it. And give us one second. Okay, quick cut. All right, so we're back. And yeah, so he's basically kind of jealous, but at the same time, we could tell he's obviously happy for her. And then, like I had mentioned, we get more throughout the episode. She tries to learn her strength, some her mobility as a Hulk. She can jump high, obviously, like Hulk does. There's a fun scene with the boulder. Go ahead and go into that.
Yeah. So when and Hulk Bruce Banner through a border, I'm like, okay, hey, this is how to do about it. And then when and Jennifer just threw a border, and let's say she threw it on the sky.
She threw it a little further than it.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, let me show you how to do it. And he throws it into the stratosphere. Hopefully, it doesn't hit a village or a town or a city or anything like that. But from what I can see, I think it went to the stratosphere and kind of like broke into different parts. But it just goes to show how strong Hulk is.
Yeah.
And potentially what her power could be as well, just as powerful, if not stronger than he is. So we get into that, and obviously she was upset from the moment she found out that she's not a Hulk, and now they're just going in and out of arguments and bickering, going back and forth. He's telling her you gotta do this type of breathing exercises, namaste type of thing, and she's like upset, like I just want to go home. I don't want to be here anymore. And he's constantly telling her like, hey, like I know you want to go back to your life, but you're a Hulk now. You gotta be a superhero. And they go into this great discussion where she's like, what if I don't want to be a superhero? I have these powers, but what if I want to save the world in my own way? Through the legal system, through taking cases to help the people with, who don't have as much power as these corporations and things like that. And that's why this show's called She-Hulk Attorney of Law, because we get to see She-Hulk, who she has fights with basically being like strong beings and people with powers, and that she has fights in the courts because she's a lawyer, attorney of law,
Yeah.
attorney at law. Sorry. And what else happens throughout this episode that we get to see?
So yeah, and there was like a bar scene in and
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, and then that does a coming in of Tony Stark.
Yeah. So they stopped training for a bit. They went to a bar that he had built. I'm gonna pause real quick. Did you plug it in? Okay. 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 Quick cut. Yeah, so he goes. They go to his bar that he had built in Mexico with Tony,
Yeah.
and this is some of the most, character developing things that we've seen from Hulk in a while. He's basically talking to Jennifer, and she's asking him how was his relationship with Tony, and Bruce is basically talking about how Tony was basically his best friend, his science bros. I'm talking about Avengers,
Yeah.
and he misses Tony obviously. What Ralphie had mentioned, there's a carving, right?
Yeah.
Where it says BB and TS for Tony Stark on the bar, and she's just asking him like, what was he like? And Bruce says like usually he would be the one drinking, and he would just complain about Steve Rogers because I assume during this time it was, I mean, from the beginning, Steve and Tony, I'm not gonna say they hated each other. They didn't really like each other at the beginning. They had resentment towards each other. Tony had resentment towards Steve because of how his father Howard was praising Steve Rogers every day of the week, and Tony getting tired of it growing up, constantly hearing about Captain America. So that's where he has his resentment towards Steve. Tony has his resentment towards Steve, and then that's basically where that line comes from. And then they're drinking about. We had skipped over the moment where he's like, "You're a Hulk. Our metabolism is super quick, so we can drink alcohol, get buzzed, and not feel like crap." And then so they're just drinking and stuff. And then the next morning she has a massive hangover because she's still Jennifer Walters.
Yeah.
And then they're doing one more their last namaste, basically Zen yoga type of breathing exercises, and they start arguing again because she says I'm leaving, and she shows Bruce that she can easily transform to She-Hulk and Jennifer instantly without any emotional
Oh,
repercussions or physical repercussions from the transformations or anything like that. And then Jennifer goes into detail like how she, as a woman, she's constantly not constantly, but like she's being catcalled, harassed. She fears for her life in certain situations and things like that. So basically, like the show is just like a social commentary on what it's like to be a woman every day, and things like that. From a male's perspective, I really enjoyed watching it because it's just another way of like every day, people talk about on social media about everyday struggles and things like that. And then to see it in a Marvel show, it's just another way for people to understand, like, hey, everyone, certain people have more issues than others and things like that. And I just really enjoyed how they portrayed it in the show, especially from a character like Jennifer Walters. Jennifer Walters, who just within 25 minutes, you can already tell she's really developed as a character. And then, so she's basically telling Bruce, like, I'm leaving, deuces. I'm taking the Jeep. Catch me later. They're in Mexico, right?
yeah.
So she's gonna drive back to LA, and he gets in front of her, and then go ahead and then tell them what happens next.
So yeah,
Probably the best scene in the whole episode.
so after they argument and they were like fighting each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then there's the scene whenever Smart Hulk did his
Clapping thing. Well, yeah, right.
Yeah,
And then
and even though the move has been used since the 2008 film.
Yeah. So you guys skipped a part. Well,
Yeah.
you said they're fighting, but like you gotta go more into it. Like
Yeah.
he didn't want her to leave, so he got in front of the vehicle. She ran him over, and then they started fighting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you didn't really miss much. Okay, yeah, they started fighting. Where Rafi has said he does the Hulk slap, blows her away, and she gets up, and she can't do it as strong as he can, but she can do it in short bursts. So that's why he starts getting all angry and stuff. And we get a dope fight scene between Hulk and She-Hulk. And this is the first time since the beginning of Infinity War that we've seen Hulk be Hulk to a degree. Obviously, it's not 2012 Hulk, where it's Hulk smash and he's going berserk and
Yeah.
obliterating everything around his path. But we get to see Bruce Banner, be tough for for the first time in a while. And that's really exciting to finally see that back on the screen, even like on Disney Plus on a show like this, on a show like with this budget, with this many episodes. I really enjoy it. And yeah, so they get out on a fight. They crash into
His bar.
And he's like, "You gonna help me fix it?" They're fixing it together, and then what does she do when she's talking to him?
She
breaks the fourth wall.
Yeah, she broke the fourth wall.
Breaks the fourth wall, talks to us, and things like that. And then that's pretty much the episode starting to wrap up. He tells her, if you want to leave, you have my support. I understand why you want to leave. She says, thank you. She gets in the vehicle and drives off. And then, boom, we cut back to the beginning of the episode when she's talking to us and breaking the fourth wall. And she's basically saying, a few months have passed. I have yet to become She-Hulk. I proved Bruce wrong. Let's go ahead and win this case. She's giving her final argument. Well, she's about to give her final argument. And then the character Titania, played by, let me get the actress's name, Jamila Jamil. She seems familiar. I think I've seen her before. Yeah, Jamila Jamil, Titania, comes in, busts through the courtroom. Jennifer turns into She-Hulk, whoops Titania's ass. Gold gives her final statement, her final argument, and that's the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So overall, what's your thoughts on this episode?
So yes, for this episode though, I actually think the episode is pretty good.
Right.
Yeah, giving us some introduction to the character, Jennifer Walters character.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just think the episode is pretty good.
You liked it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's a cool end credit scene where it's Bruce and Jennifer talking at the bar, drinking, and she appears to be drunk, and she's basically venting. She's upset and sad because Captain America, America's ass, died a virgin, and she's upset. And then Bruce finally tells her, like, okay, Captain America lost his virginity on the USO tour in like 1944 or something like that, 1943. And Jennifer was lying. She's like, I knew it. And then Hulk is like, "You weren't drunk." Jennifer's like, "Captain America," and then it cuts immediately because they can't curse to that degree. And but yeah, that's pretty much the first episode. Overall, I love the length of the episode, the pace, the dialogue between Jennifer and Hulk, and things like that. And I just from the start, you can tell this is going to be a great MCU show. I don't know. I've given my thoughts on some other ones. I have my favorites. I love WandaVision, my favorite MCU show up to this point. I have had gripes with other ones, but overall, I think this is just based off of one episode so far in this review. I think it's really great.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're gonna go from the first episode to the second episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't you start us off? We see it. How many times have we seen it? I think we've seen it once today.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. We have it a steal in the background from episode 2.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start us off so I can get us going because I'm trying to remember exactly where it starts off.
Yeah, me too.
It starts off with Jennifer, basically with Nikki at the bar right here. That's how the episode starts off. And they're basically talking about. So when Jennifer wants to walk to the bar, they're chanting She-Hulk. So she changes into She-Hulk. She gives the people what they want, and she's kind of like venting, saying like, "Why does she have to be She-Hulk to please people and things like that?" And then it turns out that Jennifer's boss wants to talk to her, and he tells her that she's fired, right?
Yeah.
Well, what was the reason why? Because she turned into She-Hulk, obviously for the right reason, to save people in that courtroom, or else they would have been hurt / probably killed. But the counter team, I'm sorry, I don't know the legal terms. I'm sorry, guys. All right. Basically wanted to say now she swayed the jury towards her direction because she saved our lives, so they're going to be biased in the decision. So they just kind of like stalled the case, and I don't know. I'm sorry, I don't know legal terms. But basically, the boss told Jennifer she's fired because they can't have something like a liability, a She-Hulk on their legal team. So she's fired. She's upset, obviously, because she lost the job. Well, she's still a lawyer, but she lost, the company that she was trying to work to for so long. And then there's like a bunch of cutscenes of her trying to get a job, right? And what's happening?
They kept rejecting her.
Yeah, and what do they keep telling her?
Wait, hold on.
That she's She-Hulk, right?
Yeah, that she's She-Hulk.
Mm-hmm. And then, so you could tell that she's being hurt and beaten down because of this, because she's getting declined at every firm she goes to, and you could tell the firms get smaller and smaller just based off of the background. Because whenever she goes in for her first interview, it's like this prestigious background with like a wall of books and these beautiful wood panels and things like that. And then she gets declined there. And next one is still a nice office, but a little more downgraded. Next panel is just a gray wall with a couple of filing cabinets. And then lastly, it's a beat up wall with one filing cabinet and boxes in the back. So she can't get a job anywhere, basically, what this shows, what this is implying, the scene. And she's beat up about it, obviously, because she didn't ask to be She-Hulk. She did the right thing in that courtroom. What was she going to do? Just let those people get hit by that thing that, what's her name? Titania?
Yeah.
Titania threw at them. And she's trying to figure out what she's going to do next. So she goes into her computer with her friend Nikki to look for jobs. And it's like jobs as like a costume person in a costume, like at a fair. And she's basically, for her eyes, she's trying to find anything. And there's like a little Easter egg. There's 2 Easter eggs. Go ahead and get into it.
So yeah, the first one is.
Well, where do we see it? Like, get into that first.
Oh, it was like.
On the computer.
Yeah, on the computer.
On the side.
Yeah, the side.
On the website that she's on, there's like little news articles on the side.
Yeah.
Go ahead and get into it.
Yeah, the first one, and it's of course the statue from Eternals.
And it was like, why is there a big head sticking out of the ocean or
yeah.
the earth, right? And then what is the other one, which I'm really excited for?
It's of course a guy with claws beat up in the bar.
Yeah, so It said a man with metal claws
Metal claws.
gets into bar brawl. What other person has metal claws and gets into fights at bars?
Wolverine.
Wolverine, Logan himself.
Yeah.
So this is and then obviously the MCU can be being cheeky and be like, oh, that's not really Wolverine who we're talking about. Kevin Feige can deny it all he wants.
Yeah.
They're talking about Wolverine. It's
Yeah.
pretty obvious. Who else has metal claws and gets into bar fights? Freaking Wolverine.
Yeah.
So that little nugget, I found out afterwards online in an article. I had just seen it. And I was like, oh my gosh! And I went back and I was like, yep, it says that. Man with metal claws getting into bar brawl. So okay, yeah. So back to the episode. So yeah, Nick is trying to figure out what she's gonna do next, and then she gets a text message that she needs to go to a family dinner. So we finally meet her parents for the first time in the show, and they seem like nice people. We meet her family, the rest of her family. I don't know if they're family or friends of the family, but either way, they're all having dinner together, and they're basically like. You could tell the parents told everyone, "Do not bring up She-Hulk," but immediately, what do?
They bring it
They
up.
bring up She-Hulk. That's the first thing they do because that's just how people are. They start attacking her with questions, and she's getting frustrated, but she answers them because that's who she is. She's a nice person, and yeah, I mean, and then the dad pulls her out for dinner and talks to her in the basement. I think they're just having a conversation, asking her if she's okay, and they're just basically dad and daughter talk, trying to figure out if things are okay with her. And she's basically telling the dad, like, I'm not okay. I'll be honest with you, things aren't great, but I mean, I'm okay with not being okay. That's what she said. And then next, we see her at the bar again. She's drunk because she's drinking her sorrows away. She can't find a job. She's financially struggling to a degree because she says she's balling with the budget. And then some man walks up to her, and the man turns out to be the lawyer for the people that she was going up against in that case in the last episode. And he tells her, hey, I know I got you fired, but you want to come work for me, for my firm? And she says yes immediately because she can't find a job anymore. And then so the next scene, she's cleaned up, she's going to the new office in this big, beautiful building. And then she goes in there to see who she's going to work with. And it turns out, oh yeah, he offered her a job to be the head / face of this department. She gets there as Jennifer Walters. When he meets her in the lobby, he tells her, I don't want Jennifer Walters, I want She-Hulk. And you need to be She-Hulk your entire time in here. Pause this real quick. Sorry about that, we had a plug in the computer. It was going low on battery. Okay, so what was he telling her?
About, no, you need to be She-Hulk.
The whole time that you're in the office, right?
Yeah.
And what else was going on in that scene?
So yeah, she turned to She-Hulk, and that's and when he was giving her the tour around the building.
Mm-hmm.
And then she books a fourth phone.
She started talking to us, the audience.
Yeah.
And she was basically saying, like, what am I getting myself into? Why do I have to be She-Hulk the whole time? Upset with how this guy's basically going to use She-Hulk as the face of the company. And then, yeah, but he tells her this is your office. It's a beautiful corner office. Her paralegal / friend, Nikki, is there already in the office setting things up. And Nikki's telling her, like, I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do. If you want, you gotta be She-Hulk if you want to work here and things like that. And basically consulting her. Some guy walks in. Let me see the guy's name. His name is Pug in the show. His name is Josh Segura. Josh Segura. The actor's name. Just basically gives her a gifts basket, and that's pretty much the end of that scene. Him introducing himself, giving her a gift basket, automatically applies. Okay, we're gonna see him throughout episodes, and things like that. Okay, next, what happens next?
And next she had a meeting like, what was his name again? The one who hired your Jennifer Walters.
Well, the lawyer. Oh yeah, I don't even know his name. Sorry about that. Okay, well, her boss. I forget his name.
Yeah.
Well, the boss, basically, she's having a meeting with the boss, and she's telling him, like, hey, he's telling her, hey, I need you to work this case. You're going to be representing a guy that goes by Abomination. She's like, Abomination? He tried to kill my cousin. And he's like, oh, I really don't care. Just take this case. If you don't take it, you don't have a job here. And she's like, obviously, she tells him, like, well, I don't want it. And he tells her, okay, well, you don't have a job here. He's like, at least meet with him first before you don't want to take this case. That's the least you can do. Okay, so she says, okay. So she goes and she meets Abomination. And yeah, I mean, he's telling her, like, hey, Abomination is telling Jennifer, hey, last time me and your cousin got into it, I was a different person. Sorry, I tried to kill him. I wrote these beautiful haikus about him, these beautiful poems, right?
Yeah.
And it's basically he's telling her he was hired on as a contractor to hunt down the Hulk. He thought he was the good guy. They told him he was gonna get paid handsomely. They told him he was gonna be a hero if he caught the Hulk. And this is in 2008, obviously. So Hulk is kind of like this rampant character that we don't really know that much about within this context of the MCU. And he's basically telling her, like, it's not fair that they pumped me up with this super soldier serum. I became Abomination. I go rampant, obviously, because they pumped me up with this stuff. And now Hulk is seen as the greatest hero of all time, one of the greatest heroes of all time. And I'm here in this cage rotting. How is that fair? And if she considers, okay, she's listening to him, and then that's pretty much the end of their conversation, the meeting that she has with him, with Abomination.
Yeah.
And she's back in her home talking to Bruce, and they're basically like, what is she telling him?
She's telling him that I showed that I could do the case, and then he said, "Yeah, that's okay."
Mm-hmm.
It sounded like that, and then and what else happened after that?
So basically, like they're just she's on the phone with Jennifer's on the phone with Bruce, telling him like, hey, I'm probably gonna take this case for Abomination. And she keeps talking to him, and Bruce cuts her off, and he's like, "Hey, just take it. It sounds great for you." He makes his little joke. It's a meta joke.
Yeah.
He's like, "I'm not that same person I was in 2008. Literally, I'm a whole different person. Quite literally, he's a different person."
Yeah.
Edward Norton,
Yeah, and Mark Ruffalo.
Mark Ruffalo. So that was a cool little meta joke that they threw in there. But yeah, basically telling her like, take the case.
Yeah. And then is this part.
Go ahead.
She said like, okay, when we gonna visit, and he said, oh, I cannot, because he's on a ship for Sakai,
Mm-hmm.
which is possibly set up for World War Hulk movie.
Yeah.
Or
Exactly.
or a TV series.
A TV series.
Or Hulk or movie.
I think it's gonna be a movie.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll do a TV series with that storyline. That's a whole movie right there. So yeah, basically, she's like, "You're gonna go to Family Diner." He's like, "I don't think I'm gonna make it this time, cause," and it pans out he's in a Sicarian ship drifting off into space. So basically, you want to give them some backstory on the rights and stuff for the Hulk?
So yeah. So maybe a mini series or a movie.
A movie. It's gonna be a movie, Ruffy. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
They're gonna do a series. It's gonna be a movie.
Yeah, because Disney cannot do a sequel to Hulk though, because the film rights is with Universal.
Mm-hmm.
Supposedly they are losing the rights, the film rights, for a solo Hulk movie.
So Universal owns the rights to the Hulk. This is why the MCU Disney have not made a solo project for Hulk since the original Hulk in 2008, because they don't have
The rights.
the rights to make a solo movie with him. The MCU can use him. That's why we see him in all the Avengers movies
and those crossover
and
projects.
Ragnarok and things like that. But as of June 2023, which is next year, which is a little under a year from now, the rights to the Hulk go back to Disney and Marvel. Since they're gonna have the rights back, now they can make a solo movie again for the Hulk. And what this show is doing, it's setting up World War Hulk. In my opinion, I don't know what else they would be doing with him. A World War Hulk. If you don't know that much about it, you can just Google it or read a comic or two about it. It's this badass story, probably one of the greatest storylines with Hulk, in my opinion. And yeah, he just goes to war world, like it's in the title, you know. And that's what I think. Obviously, that what I had just mentioned. This show was setting that up. Okay, so that's it. That's enough of that. We'll move back to the episode.
Yeah.
Um, and then it's not that long afterward. This episode's short. It ends after that, basically.
Yeah, and then she got another call, said, put the news on.
Yeah. So whenever she finishes the call with Bruce, her boss calls her. No, she calls Jennifer calls her boss and tells him, "Hey, I'm gonna take the case." Like, great, that sounds good. Turn the news on. I'll talk to you later. She turns the news on, and it turns out Abomination's been breaking out of prison to go to a fighting ring. And if you've seen Shang-Chi, what happens in that scene?
Yeah, so Abomination has escaped
Mhm.
to the fighting section with Wong from Doctor Strange films. So yeah, so Wong and Abomination were battling in this Fight Club.
And Shang-Chi, yeah, in
Yeah,
the
and
Fight Club.
yeah, on Shang-Chi. And for those who already seen it, you'll probably know which one that we're talking about.
Yeah. So basically, the story is about Abomination breaking out of prison. Now her job's a lot harder.
Yeah,
And then boom, credits roll. And then that's the end of the episode. Not as action packed. There wasn't a single fight scene in this episode, which was fine because it's just character development. It's moving the story forward with dialogue, which I really do enjoy as well. The end credit scene, it's not really much. It's basically her as She-Hulk moving moving things. Sorry guys, the noise. It's an ice maker. Her as She-Hulk helping with heavy stuff at her family's house, carrying like eight containers of water and lifting a vehicle as her cousin changes the tire and things like that. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
Overall, I really enjoyed this show. I really enjoyed the first two episodes. I like the way that Jennifer Walters is portrayed in this show. Obviously, there's people upset because all the source material is not sticking true to the certain materials. The way I see it, I read comics, I read graphic novels. You can see some of them have a lot more than those in the
Yeah.
back. If it's not follow the source material 100, like, then to go read the book. You can read the book. It's fine. It's still there for you. For these adaptations, obviously, I mean, I don't want drastic changes. Like, oh, we're gonna make She-Hulk, not She-Hulk, like things like that. If they're offering certain things just to further their story that they're telling for this particular adaptation for live action, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
So overall, what are your thoughts?
We know again. I do enjoy the second one as well,
Mhm.
and the pacing thing is pretty good though.
Yeah, I really like the pacing of the show.
Yeah,
That's pretty much it. Anything else?
and that
No.
no.
Okay. Alright, guys. Well, that's pretty much our review for the first two episodes of She-Hulk. We'll drop more reviews throughout. Oh, what are you gonna add?
No, let's just wait for like the last episode for the rating.
Of what?
Like either like
Oh yeah, we'll do that first again.
yeah.
We're gonna look for some Funko Pops for She-Hulk. That'd be pretty interesting.
Okay.
But as always, please like, comment, share, comment below your favorite of the two episodes between 1 and 2, and your thoughts on the show so far. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah.
As always, I'm Chris.
And Ralph.
We will catch y'all next time. Peace.